judge allegedly shoots former partner in head while he slept. A shocking case in Pennsylvania has concluded with a verdict for former Harrisburg District Judge Sonia McKnight. She was found guilty of attempted murder after shooting her ex-boyfriend, Michael McCoy, in the head while he was sleeping. Miraculously, McCoy survived and testified against his former lover. The story began when McCoy decided to end his year-long relationship with McKnight and asked her to move out of his house. However, McKnight refused and even reclaimed her house key. On February 9, 2024, McCoy returned home to find McKnight still there, wearing pajamas and sitting on the couch. He told her they would talk in the morning and went to sleep. A few hours later, McCoy woke up in extreme pain, unable to see. He heard McKnight asking, "Mike, what did you do to yourself?" It turned out McCoy had been shot near his right eye. McCoy was immediately taken to the hospital. There, he insisted to medical staff that he did not shoot himself and had no intention of committing suicide, requesting they save his life if his heart stopped. McKnight was the only other person present in the house that night. She called 911 claiming she heard her boyfriend screaming, but didn't know what happened. However, police quickly discovered suspicious evidence. The gun used in the shooting belonged to McKnight. Investigators found gunshot residue on her hands and clothes. Additionally, McKnight lied to police, such as claiming she hadn't left the house that night. But a neighbor's surveillance camera proved otherwise. McKnight was arrested and later released on $300,000 bail. McKnight's trial took place more than a year later. Because McKnight was once a prominent judge in the community, a prosecutor from Cumberland County was appointed to avoid conflicts of interest, and the jury was summoned from neighboring Delaware County. During the two-day trial, prosecutors argued that only McCoy and McKnight were in the house, and since McCoy maintained he didn't shoot himself, McKnight must have fired the shot. The defense argued that McKnight being the only other person in the house wasn't sufficient proof of guilt, citing reasonable doubt. On the first day of the trial, 17 witnesses were called, mostly police and medical personnel who were present at McCoy's home. Multiple police officers testified they heard McCoy repeatedly say he didn't try to commit suicide. Judge Brandon Birmingham, a special guest on Law and Crime's Sidebar program, noted that having multiple witnesses confirm McCoy's statements was crucial. He also explained hearsay rule exceptions that allowed these testimonies to be admitted in court. Judge Birmingham also emphasized the importance of McKnight being caught lying to police and her presence in McCoy's home without permission. He believed these factors significantly disadvantaged the defendant. Forensic scientists also testified about test results. Both McKnight and McCoy had gunshot residue on them after the shooting. The defense pointed out that McCoy had more residue than McKnight, but a witness testified that McKnight had washed her hands at least once before they were tested. Judge Birmingham explained that gunshot residue doesn't necessarily prove who fired the shot, but McKnight's hand washing could be viewed by the jury as an attempt to conceal evidence. He also noted that as a former judge, McKnight would certainly have knowledge about gunshot residue and investigation procedures. Another notable detail was a police officer's testimony that McKnight discarded an item believed to be evidence into a toilet at the police station, demonstrating intentional destruction of evidence. Judge Birmingham commented that such actions typically stem from short-sightedness, arrogance, or self-preservation efforts by perpetrators. Michael McCoy testified directly at the trial. He told the jury he had asked McKnight to leave his home every day for a week, but she ignored him. The night of the shooting, the last thing he remembered was McKnight saying to him before he fell asleep on the couch, "Oh, so you're serious?" McCoy testified that when he woke up in excruciating pain, he thought he was experiencing a brain aneurysm and only learned he had been shot when a medical worker told him. The shooting left McCoy blind in one eye. He underwent 2 major surgeries, and an ophthalmologist testified he would need lifelong medical treatment to maintain his remaining vision. McCoy also testified that when he called for help, McKnight didn't immediately call 911, and instead led him to the farthest bathroom on the 2nd floor. Judge Birmingham emphasized that testimony from a surviving victim is extremely powerful evidence. He suggested that McKnight's final statement before the shooting, "Oh, so you're serious?" Seeing who shot him, he told the jury, "I can't say who shot me, I was blind. But I can say who was in the house before I went to sleep." The only other person in the house was Sonya McKnight. After hearing testimony and reviewing evidence, the jury took less than 2 hours to find McKnight guilty of attempted murder and aggravated assault. Judge Birmingham noted this was a classic example of a circumstantial case, where events before, during, and after the crime, combined with the defendant's lies and cover-up actions, were sufficient to convince the jury of her guilt. Upon hearing the verdict, McCoy bowed his head, while McKnight showed no reaction. The judge deemed her a flight risk and increased her bail to $3 million. McKnight was handcuffed and escorted from the courtroom. She is expected to face 30 to 60 years in prison when sentenced in May. She will likely serve her sentence at SCI Muncie, Pennsylvania's only prison for women. Judge Birmingham explained that the court will consider aggravating and mitigating factors when determining the sentence. While McKnight's lack of prior convictions might be considered a mitigating factor, the intentional, violent nature of the crime and her attempts to cover it up will work against her. Notably, this wasn't former Judge McKnight's first trouble with the law. At the time of her arrest, she was already suspended without pay for allegedly violating probation in a 2020 disciplinary case related to her interference in her son's traffic stop. She was acquitted in that criminal case, but remained suspended. According to Pennsylvania's Commonwealth Judicial Conduct Board, McKnight violated 7 different rules regarding district judge conduct standards, including time theft by allowing staff extra vacation days and directing an office manager to pretend they never received a civil lawsuit related to a loan she owed. In 2019, McKnight was also investigated for shooting her estranged husband in the groin, but prosecutors didn't file charges, deeming it self-defense. Judge Birmingham explained that while allegations of prior misconduct might be considered during sentencing if proven under Pennsylvania law, her acquittal in the previous shooting case likely wouldn't be admissible. Judge Birmingham also shared insights about the process of becoming a judge, noting it varies by state. In Texas, where he works, judges are elected through general elections and must be attorneys for at least 5 years. He emphasized there are no mental health evaluation requirements for judicial candidates. Judge Birmingham suggested this case illustrates that judges are human, and sometimes there are bad apples in every profession. As McKnight faces a sentence of up to 60 years in prison, her story becomes a sad reminder that no one is above the law, not even those entrusted with enforcing it. It's a story about how jealousy and anger can cloud judgment, even for those trained to make fair judgments, and how someone can go from judge to convict in the blink of an eye. The Sonya McKnight case isn't just a story about crime and punishment. It's a story about the deception of appearances, the danger of toxic love, and the need for accountability at all levels of society, especially from those who hold power and are entrusted with delivering justice.